Hi, my name is Nick Matthews. I'm a cinematographer. I've had the opportunity of shooting a number of films all across the world. And today I got the opportunity to come to AbelCine and test the Sony VENICE 2 and a number of Cooke lenses. And I can't wait to share with you what I discovered. One of the things I loved immediately about the Sony VENICE 2 was the menu design, the build of the camera, and how many buttons there are on it. I'm somebody that doesn't want to get too deep in. I love that on the user side, on the operator side, I can just look and change all of my essential information right away. When I'm out in the field and I'm doing something, I don't want to be thinking about the camera. I want a camera that works, that captures the visuals that I want, and I want to be able to do that without having to think about it whatsoever, because the camera is an extension of my visual storytelling. I love that this camera comes with single stop ND. I can't say enough good things about single stop ND. It means the difference between getting a shot and not getting a shot. There's so many times that I'm outside and I'm shooting crowd sequences or expensive explosions or all sorts of different environments, and suddenly the sun gets covered by a cloud, and immediately you have to change multiple cameras all on the fly and match them. To be able to use single stop NDs means matching your cameras exactly to each other immediately. You can do it anywhere, and it keeps you moving at a breakneck speed, which is exactly what every production is looking for. You're looking for reliability, consistency, and amazing images. Another incredible thing about this camera is a very fast shutter rate. It's something that comes into play on all sorts of the movies that I shoot and projects that I shoot. I'm constantly shooting blanks and live explosives and gunplay. Those are things where if you don't have a fast enough readout, you're gonna get a split frame. You're talking about adding VFX shots into your budget suddenly because you're fixing problems that the camera couldn't capture. This camera can capture those things. That's incredibly important on the kinds of movies and sets that I'm working on. And I need something like that for hard mounts on cars so that we don't get jello, so that we have an image that retains the quality that we need in order to see the actors and feel the emotional experience of the actors. That fast readout makes all the difference. As a cinematographer, I understand that if I have to use a lot of crew members in order to light a certain set or light a certain space, that's going to cost the production time and money. So I rely on really powerful camera technology in order to save us money at every step of the way. Two of the ways that this camera does that exceptionally are the dual ASA and the raw internal recording. The dual ASA means that I can walk into a night exterior where I can use practical lighting rather than us going and re-rigging an entire city block just so that we have enough light to see. That makes a huge difference in so many contexts and ultimately does what every producer is looking to do, save time and save money. And that means as a cinematographer that I get to tell the story with more time and more elegance. Right now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do a series of underexposure tests and kind of see how the camera performs as we slowly underexpose it. And I'm gonna use ND to do these under and overexposure. So right now we have a 1.2 in and we're at a T28. So let's just drop it a stop and kind of see how it starts to play and fall apart. And my LUT's doing a lot of pretty dramatic things to this image. Now we're 2 stops under, and we'll keep going here. And now we're starting to get into territory where, with the amount of light we have, there's almost nothing exposed. So what'll be fun is to actually take this footage into post, sort of play with it, bring it up, and sort of start to see how it falls apart. But it's about 4 stops there of underexposure. And then we'll slowly peel off the ND and kind of see what we're looking at as we overexpose. And the LUT on this is doing a lot of work. So the camera actually is holding quite a bit of information. Really the only thing we're blowing out right now as I open this up, just those lights in the deep background. I'm gonna actually open up even a little further here to a 2, and we're still holding everything, even though the LUT looks to be completely gone. So everything here is actually completely held. You know, which the LUT could probably come down a little in terms of the highlights, but this is giving us just showing how much dynamic range there is with this camera, which is something I've been really impressed with a lot of the latest Sony offerings, is just such great dynamic range, which is really fantastic. Another thing I love about this camera is there's an internal RAW recorder. It means that the build is smaller. It means that I don't have to take extra GAC, things that can break down. It's built into the camera. It's capturing high quality files that are raw, which have a lot of adjustability in post. It saves the production time and money if I know I'm capturing a raw image that I can walk into in post and say, let's bring that wall down with a power window. We don't need to use 10 guys putting up a 20 by in order to take that down. I know I can take that down in post. So it really does give you maximum flexibility and control both on set and in post, which ultimately saves you time and it saves you money. As a cinematographer, I use a lot of color in my work. I like to build that color into the sets. I like the production designers to be able to be expressive with what they do. I love to go into very beautiful, colorful environments, from the forest in Japan to the mountains of Colorado. I want to be able to take a camera somewhere that fully captures the fidelity and richness of those spaces and those locations so that I can take the audience into that world and I can use the frame in order to transport them there. The Sony VENICE 2 does exactly that. It gives me 16-bit raw files that have the full fidelity of the color of the environments that I'm shooting. So I can use these big expressive tools in my palette in order to take the audience on an emotional, subconscious journey. So we're at 3200 ASA as our base, and we're at a 3200 ASA as our selection. For me, I'm interested in how a camera reads color. A lot of times I'll bring the practicals in and do an actual test with the practicals in front of the camera, make sure there's no flickering or strobing or anything like that. But in this case, if we were looking at shooting like an urban street environment with sodium vapor warmth and lighting, that's what something like this might give us. And so for me, it's just like, I'm very curious, like how does this camera take something like that and play with it? You know, how do those colors read? Like, does it really fall apart? Do we start to see a lot of banding? And I'm just not seeing anything like that, which is really fantastic. All right, our camera values are exactly the same. This is Tokyo Blue. This is a really tough color for a lot of cameras to capture. It's really hard to bend around, and I've used this for like nightclubs or night exteriors where there's neons and you're really trying to get something that's very sort of futuristic or has like a certain clinical aspect, or maybe you're shooting a pool. And so it's just nice to know, like, how does this, you know, how does this camera deal with that sort of crazy? And you can see this is eating a lot of light, so our background's a lot hotter now because even though we're at full intensity on the light, these sort of intense, crazy colors eat a lot of light. As a filmmaker, I work on a variety of content, including commercials and music videos, and they all have different deliverables, and you need a camera that can meet the needs of all of those. One of the things I really like about the VENICE 2 is the fact that it shoots full frame in 8K, and it shoots Super 35 in 6K. What that means is I'm able to scale the image, I'm able to change the image, I'm oversampled for VFX, and I'm able to use that resolution in order to stabilize images and give me a lot of flexibility in post, as well as meet the needs of all those different deliverables. And I think that's something that's really important for the work that I do. As we got set up for the test, I was really excited to pull out a set of lenses that I've used on a lot of projects and I have a lot of love for, the Cooke Panchro Classics. They have vintage quality to them, but they're modern housing and modern design. And that was my control test as we were gonna look at a variety of lenses using the camera. So what I ended up doing when I'm testing, I'm really looking for ways that I can take the camera to the edge, take it to the extremes. I wanna know what it does really well and where it falls apart. And every camera has strengths and limitations. The strengths of this camera became very apparent to me. There's an incredible amount of dynamic range, which is something you're constantly fighting for on set when you're dealing with big, bright backgrounds and dark interiors, like a lot of the work that I do in neo-noir and horror. So that was something that really impressed me about the camera. In addition to an incredible dynamic range, I also really connected with the way it read color. As we were walking through the test, we're exposing the lenses, we're underexposing the image, overexposing the image, we're taking it right to the brink so we can see where do the skin tones fall apart. Can I overexpose this 4 stops and bring it back? Do I need to keep from clipping anything? Does this camera handle these things well? The VENICE 2 gave me a lot of confidence going into any situation to be able to take that dynamic range and that level of latitude and to be able to shift the camera around and push it. Additionally, after performing a series of underexposure and overexposure tests to see where the camera fell apart at both dual ASAs, 800 and 3200, I also took the camera and just pushed it straight to 6400 to see, does this camera have the kind of noise that I love? Does it have the kind of textural filmic noise? And I have to say, I found the camera to be extremely clean, and any noise that I did see reminded me of 35mm film, which is something that really excites me. There's no fixed pattern noise. There's nothing that feels very digital and artificial. This feels very organic and it feels very textural. So we're at 6400 ASA, should be fairly well exposed. You're starting to see some grain and some noise, but it's, as has been my experience with all of the latest offerings from Sony, it's just really pleasing. Doesn't look like fixed pattern noise or anything like that. It's far less than you'd get with 35mm, that's for sure. And it's really beautifully done. Okay, so let's just take a look at overexposing and then we'll underexpose. We're still holding everything in the frame, and we're still holding everything here at an N6, which is 2 stops over, and it's 3 stops over there. Still holding everything, and that's 4 stops over there, and we're really just losing point sources here. So once again, the LUT is throwing away a lot. We could build a different LUT that holds a little more and is not quite so contrasty. And just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up all the way. There we go. Now we're starting to actually clip skin. So that's something we'll be able to take a look at in post. And I'm stopping back down to a 4, and we're still holding all the skin there. So it's just got heaps of overexposure, or highlight protection. Okay, let's go ahead and stop down and start to see what this looks like. And this is where you're really gonna start, this is 2 stops under, you're really gonna start to feel the noise break apart, especially if we were to lift this up. Because a lot of times what happens in post is you'll get in and you'll do like a shape or a power window in order to say we love this level of darkness, and maybe this is too dark for most movies, or maybe it's just dark enough. But you might see it and decide you wanna lift the face or the eyes in a shape or a power window. So it's nice to know, where does my image fall apart, and what kind of breaks it apart, and how much room do I have to lift something out of the shadows. After we tested our control set of lenses, the Cooke Panchro Classics, I threw on the Cooke S8s because I wanted to know what they'd look like. And holy shit, I was blown away by how tack sharp they are. Being able to open up to a 1.4 with a tack sharp lens gives you a lot of creative possibility. For one, that means you can do an iris pull that maybe takes you from a T8 to a 1.4, and the audience is not gonna notice because the lenses are sharp at both stops. And maybe there's a moment in your story where you wanna be able to do that. I loved that it let me throw the background so intensely out of focus. That's something that's only possible on a full frame sensor with a 1.4 lens. So it was something that I thought was really beautiful. We continue to perform a series of under and overexposure tests with those lenses as well. We also played with color and a variety of things because I wanted to see, how does this camera handle those sort of rich, challenging colors? And it did such a spectacular job. After testing a number of spherical options, I really wanted to get my hands on something anamorphic because I love being able to use the variety of lenses to tell a variety of stories. Some stories are meant to be vertical and boxy and 1.8.5, and some stories are meant to be cinemascope and show you the full landscape that's in front of you. So I really wanted to see, what does this camera look like with anamorphic? I was blown away. The Cooke Anamorphic full-frame special flares have a quality that I've never seen with any other lens because I've never shot full-frame anamorphic. It felt like I was taken into the world and was able to be there with this character with this really beautiful compressed space. And I just love the way that it flared. There's really nothing else like it out there. It's beautiful in the way that it cuts across the frame, and it sort of harkens back to those movies of the 80s and the 90s. It gives you a beautiful flare without it dominating the frame, and I just found it fantastic. It was fun to be able to see all these different flavors and varieties on the same exact camera and see how well it performed with every single lens that I put on it, and I just can't wait to take it out in the real world and to challenge audiences with provocative storytelling using this camera.